Hello, welcome to the N3tstat IDS Endpoint Detection and Response Framework demonstration. During this demo, I will show N3tstat IDS capabilities for detecting PowerShell-based advanced cyber threat emulation tools. Before continuing with the demo, I recommend you go to www.networksec.com. Notice the 3 in place of the first T. Go to the Products tab and click on the N3tstat IDS repo link so that you can get to our GitHub N3tstat IDS repository where you can download the latest N3tstat IDS version. Also recommend you go over the N3tstat IDS overview presentation and take some time to view the N3tstat IDS introduction demo to learn more about the N3tstat IDS functionality and detection capabilities. Before going on with the demo, just a quick brief overview of the N3tstat IDS framework. You have agents that are organized by sites. Each N3tstat IDS agent runs on a system that is being monitored. Each agent continuously collects system information and analyzes that information in order to attempt to detect advanced cyber threat type activities. Each agent then, the results of the analysis performed by each agent is transmitted securely over to the N3tstat IDS server. The N3tstat IDS server is responsible for collecting all of the information from each of the N3tstat IDS agents that are assigned to it to facilitate further analysis by the N3tstat IDS analyzer. For this demo, we're going to have a N3tstat server analyzer monitoring 2 endpoints assigned to Site 1. Endpoint 1 resides at IP address 172.16.151.129. Endpoint 2 resides at IP address 172.16.151.130. The victim that we'll be targeting is going to be endpoint 1, and the attacker resides at IP address 192.168.1.28. The tools we'll be employing are Empire and Metasploit, which are advanced cyber adversary emulation tools used to evade protection mechanisms like legacy antivirus and host-based IDS systems. So let's take a look at our N3tstat IDS analyzer interface. We're going to first go to the agents view, where we can see that we have the 2 endpoints that we're monitoring, 151.129 and 151.130. As you can see, there's some information associated with this agent that we're monitoring. It shows us the type of findings that N3tstat IDS found, and then the processes that are running that are accessing particular remote endpoints. Let's go to the remote endpoints view. As you can see here, we have the specific endpoints that are remote endpoints that are being accessed by the different processes that are running on the monitored agents. For example, we have the N3tstat service, which is the agent service, the N3tstat IDS agent service, running on system 129, accessing a remote endpoint registered to errand operations. N3tstat IDS flagged this process because this remote endpoint is running under NT authority system. However, with the rules that are in place, we know that anything going to errand operations is usually trusted traffic, so the endpoint risk analyzer, which is currently running, knows that, so it doesn't flag this particular remote endpoint, if error operations wasn't part of the trusted list, this would probably be at yellow. Let's see. So now we're gonna go to the demo. Let's go to our Empire tool. We're gonna first go to our listeners to set up our listener. And we're gonna set up an HTTP listener. Let's change the name to HTTPS 80. We're gonna be setting up an HTTPS listener, but we're gonna set it up to run on port 80. We'll leave port 443 for the Metasploit listener. So let's set the host to 192.168.1.28, port 80. Set the cert path to where the certificates are at. Set the default jitter to 0.7. Set the port to 80. Let's look at our options. Everything seems to look good. Let's execute the listener. There's our listener. So now let's set up the shell code. We're gonna use Stager multi launcher. All options look good. Let's execute this. So there's our shell code. This is the code that an adversary would want to have a user execute on his or her system, perhaps via a spear phishing attack or an infected removal media. There's various ways. These are just a few examples, but for the purpose of this demo, I will manually execute it on the target system. Let's see. Copy. There's the shell code. We'll run it. So we got a callback. That looks good. So let's interact with the agent that was set up. Oops, wrong interface. Let's get some information from the agent. There it is. We got the internal IP, the username. It's a high integrity connection, which means we got system access. So let's interact a little. Let's do a directory listing of one of the directories. See what happens. Let's try to download one of the files. Well, show that data exfiltration. Should start seeing the download here shortly. There it goes. So while this is going on, let's set up our Metasploit listener. So we're gonna use exploit multi-handler. We're gonna set the payload to Windows Meterpreter reverse HTTPS. Set the L host to 192.168.1.28. The L port to 443. Set exit on session false. Launch the listener. We're listening on port 443. So now we're gonna download finish. So now we're gonna tell it to inject the interpreter shell code so that we get a callback on our 443 listener. Code execution, invoke shellcode. Look at the options. Let's set the L host to 192.168.1.28. Port 443. Let's execute this. Job started. The shellcode got injected. Let's see if we get a callback. No callback yet. I think what happened is the Windows Defender picked up nope. Let's see if it yeah, let's take a look at Windows Defender. I think what happened is this thing. Yeah. Windows Defender picked it up. We're just gonna allow it to run, so that's good. But we're gonna assume that we bypass the. That's good for Windows Defender, but we're gonna assume that we bypassed it. We're gonna let our shellcode run. Let's try it again and see if it'll work this time. There it goes. So that's a good kudos for Windows Defender for picking up the interpreter shellcode. But there we got our interpreter session now. So now we're gonna interact with it. Let's get our UID. There's our user. Let's get sysinfo. Let's get our PID. And it should be a PowerShell PID. So there's the 224, which is our current PID. Let's verify. Let's drop into a shell and do ipconfig. So there's the 129 address. Let's drop out of the shell. Let's do get system. See what happens. We're able to get system. One of the things an adversary would typically do would be to migrate to the LSAS process in order to dump the hashes. So let's see if we're able to migrate. the LSAS process. So let's see what. So as you can see, we're able to gain access to the system through Empire. We had command and control there, and we were also able to instruct that particular Empire agent to run some interpreter shellcode to set up a interpreter connection back to our system. So let's see what's going on with the N3tstat IDS analyzer, what kind of activities he detected. So there we go. See, there's our AD listener and our 443 listener. As you can see, was able to detect the PowerShell command by Empire. And there's for the interpreter listener, it detected the original PowerShell payload, excuse me. And also, once we migrated to LSAS, you saw how it's calling back to the same process. So picked up both and it was able to detect it. These are normally activities that aren't detected by your host-based protection mechanisms. Although I'll give kudos to Windows Defender, it was able to detect the interpreter reverse HTTPS payload. However, it wasn't able to detect the Empire one. But N3tstat IDS was able to pick both up. So, I hope you enjoyed this demo. If you have any questions, comments, and/or feedback, please contact us at the following email addresses. Thank you.